Ladies and gentlemen, we now move on to session 3, which is a special academic forum by the M2 Network, an academic forum on artificial intelligence and cybersecurity, global challenges to be frontiers in TVET education.
This forum brings together esteemed panelists from UTEM, UTHM, UNIMED, and UNPSA to discuss and exchange insights on how higher learning institutions can lead the way in technological advancement.
So for that, ladies and gentlemen, we will now invite our moderator, Mr. Lukman Haris from Astro Awani, to lead this special academic forum. Please welcome on stage.
Okay. First of all, I really have to give you guys an updated picture of myself. That one is a few years old, but tak apa, it's okay. Assalamualaikum, good afternoon everyone. How are you doing? Apa khabar? I love the spirit because once I found out that I was going to have the post-lunch shift, so I immediately knew that I was up for a bigger challenge because everyone is full, the food was good, because I ate it myself just now, so it's going to be a bit challenging. But I'm not so afraid because I've got an esteemed line of panelists who I will introduce shortly. But I think you guys all know the topic of our session today, post-lunch, starting at 2:45. It's AI and cybersecurity, the global challenges to be frontiers in TVET education. I don't want to give such a long intro because I think you guys know what AI is, you know what the challenges pertaining to cybersecurity are. And we've talked about the challenges, the issues facing AI so much lately. But I think the bigger picture, which we'll touch on also in this session, is how you guys out there, the TVET students, how you can be prepared, how you can be empowered to not just weather AI, survive AI, but thrive on AI, how you can be the next, or indeed the first generation, not just in the country but in the world, to actually come to grasp with AI. Because our generation, AI is really quite new, we're still figuring things out. I was just mentioning to my fellow panelists, I am also a part of the AI adoption team in Astro Awani. I also spent 3 months in the UK studying AI. So it's still early days, so we still haven't figured it out yet. But I think you guys are in a prime position to actually harness the full potential of AI in the next few years. So that's what we're going to talk about, amongst others. So before I ramble along further, please allow me to introduce my panelists. Please give a rousing welcome, first of all, to Associate Professor Technologist Dr. Muhammad Hafiz Fazli Fawadi, Dean of the Faculty of Artificial Intelligence and Cybersecurity of UTEM. Technologist Dr. Zubairi Abdullah, Deputy Dean Academic International, Faculty of Computer Science and Information System of UTHM. Associate Professor Dr. Rosalita Ngadiran, Deputy Director, TVET Center of UNIMED. And last but not least, Professor Dr. Hamdan Daniel, Chief Information Officer, Information Development and Technology Center of UMPSA. Ini semua yang tera-tera ni. So first of all, thank you guys for being here. Hope you're well. I'm just going to share a few tidbits first to kind of lay the context of our discussion for the next 50 minutes. 78% of global companies are using AI in some form. And the global AI market is projected to reach $1.2 trillion this year. This year, there's about a month, 2 months left this year. 57% of organizations use AI for cybersecurity, i.e. anomaly detection, and around 50% use it to detect malware. And last year, in 2024, the average cost of a data breach reached $4.9 million. Every single data breach on average costs about $5 million. And only about 21% of companies globally at the same time have established AI policies and training frameworks. So I think these bits of data is important to lead into our conversation about how we can prepare the TVET workforce to rise to the challenges of AI, especially within the context of cybersecurity. So, I would like to begin with Dr. Hafiz. So, Dr. Hafiz, AI is now a part of our everyday life, as we all know. How can advanced TVET students how can we prepare advanced TVET students to not just use AI but to also help shape it responsibly moving forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Uthman, for the very warm welcome. I think maybe we should have a different kind of a moderator and panel. Maybe we can all become the moderator and Mr. Lomar become the panel. To make it more interesting for the crowd especially.
Then you have to give me special parking downstairs because I'm a speaker. I already have it actually. Yeah,
okay, thank you very much. Okay, indeed, AI has become part of our life. In fact, I think AI has become the integral part of our daily life. From the way we communicate to how we learn, how we work, and even how we make decisions. AI is no longer things of the future because it is a reality that shapes how organization functions and how economy grows. And looking from education point of view, so as educators, our challenges is not only to help students to use or create AI, but also to make sure that they use it, they create it responsibly. And this is where the TVET framework comes in friendly and very useful. Because by using TVET framework, it can bridge the theory and also practice, where the students can use and also will be allowed to see what will happen when they design or when they create something. Okay, this is a very traditional or conventional example where, let's say for example, we expose the student to various AI methodologies. For example, explainable AI, machine learning, natural language processing and so on. So they will be allowed to take their time, to have some time in the laboratory to explore each of the methodologies so that they can fully understand and appreciate that each of the methods are meant for a specific context, are meant to solve different problems. So this is when TVET shall be used, and also I think TVET in this case, because we are dealing with MTUN, Malaysian Technical University Network, where every one of us are proud of having our TVET framework applied in our own university. And I think on top of everything, we have to make sure that the TVET model shall be implemented totally in our environment. So okay, I think I'll stop there for the first round. Thank you.
Just a quick follow-up, Taufik. What is the challenge of teaching academically something that changes really, really fast? Does the syllabus have to change every so often? Because I think we talked about fast-changing, syllabus since 10 years ago. We talked about digitalization, IR 4.0, and all those old concepts. But now AI is just at a different level. It's compounded the speed, right? We don't even know how AI will look like in 2 years, let alone 3 years or 4 years. So what's the challenge in ensuring that the syllabus is constantly up to date?
Thank you very much. That is a challenge for, I think, the middle class. When we look at the MTUN, we can say that most of the students are not the same like the research student from the research university, UM and so on. So there is a need for us to moderate the content. So when we need to moderate the content, there are certain compromise between the theory and also the applied component. And by doing so, because we already reduce some of the theoretical part and we highlight more on the applications, there is a need for us to keep revising some of the content. It's not kind of a revising, but it's kind of updating some of the content. And moreover, because when we talk about AI, computer science and so on, we're talking about the degree program with a shorter lifespan in comparison to the other field, engineering and so on. So there is a need for us to keep updating ourselves, not even the students, but also the lecturers, the administrators of the program in the universities, to keep update ourselves to make sure that our program, what we offer, are competitive enough and suitable to the market.
Yeah, that's interesting. I want to go to Prof. Hamdan. That's from the academic point of view, the academician's point of view. I want to put myself in the shoes of these students here, because what do you say to these students who are maybe a bit scared, exasperated, because they think, wait, I'm studying in UTM now, in 3 or 4 years? It's 4 years, right? Okay, 3 to 4 years. Let's say 3 to 4 years. in 3 to 4 years, what I study, by the time I go into the job market, which will probably be largely irrelevant because this moves so fast. But now I can't relearn the whole thing. I'm finishing my program, I'm entering the job market, and I have a set of skills which are probably not be unusable to a certain extent. What do you say to the students?
Okay, thank you, Lokman. I will answer this and a little bit about the previous question to Dr. as well, because it's highly related and it's the signature of M2 actually. So before that, how many of the student here is WBL student? Work-based learning? Work-based learning? Okay, a few here. Alright, this is one thing that several years ago we embarked on as M2. And I think it's the first time that 4 universities combining to make a new program. Not a program, but about 6 to 7 programs called Bachelor of Technology. So when we do Bachelor of Technology, we actually invite industry to tell us what's the job description for every job. And then from the job description, we make subjects, the courses. So for you who take WBL, you will realize that your courses is not as normal course. There's no mathematics, for example, but there's a job description. And this is the model that will answer both two questions, Lokman. Okay? How the syllabus we want to keep updating, and then what will they become after 3 years. For example, the program here, the 3 years program, only 2 years they learn at university. The final year, they will be in industry. So that is work-based learning. So all the new things that we cannot cope by our like MQA, so the industry can teach. So that's what our students from all the angles, UTHM, UTM, UNPSA, and UNIMED, we have this model, and it's been regarded as quite good, best model for Tibet right now by industry. So I guess that's answering both questions.
Yeah, kind of. Thanks. I would like to get the perspective of UNIMAP as well. I'll go to Dr. Zubairi in just a second, but first, a question to Dr. Rosita. Sorry, to lama sikit. So Dr. Rosita, from your perspective, we often talk about collaboration between academia, industry and government, even way before AI, right? I remember when I was a journalist maybe 7 or 8 years ago, at that time we were already talking about IR 4.0, we were talking about digitalization, and we've always talked about the supply-demand mismatch, which contributed to the issue of graduate employability. So when you talk about the collaboration between academia, the industry and also the government, what does that really look like in practice when it comes to AI and cyber security in TVET?
First of all, thank you for having me in this session. Okay, before that, I am the Deputy Director for TVET Center. So in TVET Center, we have 2 types of laboratory. The first one is URTF, which is the University Revolution Teaching Factory, and the other one is Industrial Lab. It related to that because the URTF in UNIMED, we are also have certain industry which is linked to that URTF. For example, in UNIMED we have Opstar as well as Altair for the 3D printing, and then we have 9 industrial lab which is offering the industrial certification as well as the professional certification. So in reality, we already have that collaboration, and then this is actually the collaboration between academia and the industry, where the industry is providing the suitable certification, and then we also follow the lead by the KPT. So KPT also announced that we have a new program called Industry on Campus, which is the industry need to be on campus, or the industry can also have campus in the industry itself. So that program have been ongoing. I think all M2 university have that.
So I would like to say, in reality, yes, it's already been implemented. Okay, so in terms of AI and cybersecurity, we have an industry. For example, we have Huawei, we have Google, as well as recently we have collaborated with AWS. Okay, to have a certification for students, and for example, for cybersecurity, we also have Cisco Academy in university. Okay, so I would like to say that all the students, especially from UNIMED here, all the blue and the yellow, so please take the opportunity to take all the certification that has been provided, okay, for you to increase your increase your resume, the probability of your GE lah, later after you finish your study, okay.
Thank you, Doctor. So I'll go to Dr. Zubaili. So talking about embedding AI in real applications for students, cybersecurity isn't just an IT issue anymore, unlike those days, right? Cybersecurity now is everyone's issue, because everyone's so deeply involved, whether you're a novice, whether you're an amateur, whether you're an expert. So how can TVET institutions build a stronger culture of cyber awareness amongst every strata of society?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lokman. The key point here is cybersecurity culture. The keyword is culture, meaning that cybersecurity is no longer about compliance or about training we get, but we must adopt and adapt it as our daily, or being part of our daily life, because we want to be a culture. Okay. And in TVET institution or academic institution, students and lecturers deal with digital infrastructure. You submit assignment, doing the assessment online, meaning that cybersecurity is not once a year seminar. Maybe at the end of this semester, you have a seminar on cyber awareness, just once. It's not a culture. When we talk about culture, we make it as a part of our daily life. So as simple as when you receive a link, you verify it first. You have a strong credential when log into your student system, and do not share some things that you do not know where it comes from. Okay, that as simple as that. It's not only about you get a security awareness once a year, but you must be embedded in your daily life. And academician or leader should also set a tone. Lecturers should show that they have what we call digital hygiene. Yeah? The digital footprints, always tell to the student that everything you post online with the advance of AI technology such as deepfake, yeah? Your picture can be modified into many cybercrime activities. And also the lecturers, the academician must show that they always update their system. When you bring your laptop, deliver notes to the student, the lecture to the student. Sometimes you found that your PowerPoint is unlicensing. That's not a culture for a lecturer, right? So the lecturer, the academician should show the good example. And at UTHM, we always do a simulation or practice to a student, especially on phishing. We send phishing email to students or to the staff, and those who click that phishing, we know who clicked it, and we will send a notification or maybe a warning why you don't follow such practice.
Usually, how many % of people who click? If you can share, don't have to reveal names, obviously.
Actually, it's confidential.
Can't even give a percentage, like 20%.
Actually, when we did for the first time, in a big percentage, we didn't. We cannot say they don't know, they didn't care, because we crafted the phishing link like real one. We buy a domain, just shifting letters, so that it make the so-called victim confused. But later on, the percentage of candidate who click the links become lower, because we also give security awareness on it. And now we are afraid that with the advance of AI, the technique to manipulate the victims become much more easier. No need to know about hard programming. They also have resources like voice. They can send voice of CEO, of NC, or VC to urge staff to click or to send something that important. But still, when it becomes a culture, security awareness is not an issue anymore. But we must progressively adapt it in the university environment. That's all.
Thank you, Doc. I've asked a question to each of the panelists. So for this next round, I'm going to do it a bit differently. I'm going to ask one question, the same question to everyone. So like round the table, round the.
Start with me.
If you would like to start with you, I can start with you. So, or you want to go back to Dr. Prof.
So I have the fresh answers.
Yeah. Or you can choose the position where you can hear what everybody else says first.
That's also the
and then you can check GPT in your brain and just reword the thing. But it's okay, I'll start with Prof. Hafiz. Prof, if you could share one hope or vision for the next 5 years, what would you like to see happen in the country's advanced TVET journey related to AI and cybersecurity?
Thank you very much. Related to AI and cybersecurity,
yes.
5 to 10 years. Okay, not too long ago, we witnessed the rise of IoT, Internet of Things, where machine devices began to connect and they can talk, they can communicate to each other through data network. And then, move forward, we see it is not only IoT, but it becomes AIoT, or Artificial Intelligence of Things. So not only they can, these devices, not only they can communicate to each other, but also they can learn, they can decide, they can think on their own. So this is what happened now, currently. So what happened in the future? We ask ourselves. So the future, or maybe if you can say, what will happen in the next 5 to 10 years is that we are going to see more and more thinking devices or thinking physical things. Those soulless or lifeless things that are around us at the moment, all the chairs, table and so on. One fine day, they will be able to think, and they will provide a reaction, and they will provide feedback to us. So this is, in UTM, this is what we call as physical AI. So I think in the near future, we are going to see the increasing number of physical AI, the physical things with thinking ability that can feedback to us. Let's say, for example, if we say intelligent fridge or intelligent cupboard that can track food items, maybe provide suggestion for us for the groceries based on our consumption or based on our dietary requirement. So those things are highly possible in the next 5 to 10 years. Okay, so up to the next.
Yeah, but just a quick follow-up. Then what about the privacy and security concerns?
Yeah.
Because I have a fridge. You mentioned I have a fridge there who's so smart, who can communicate back to me, who can give me feedback. But this is contingent upon the device taking so much data, right? Visual data, audio data. It sees me walking in front of the fridge at 12 midnight to grab a snack, probably in this T-shirt pagoda. It hears everything I talk to with my family. So how do you achieve that without sacrificing security and privacy?
Okay, yeah. Okay, that is okay. As we automate more machines and we connect more devices, that is why the importance of cybersecurity is equally importance to the AI. And I think that is the very reason why UTM founded Faculty of AI and Cybersecurity. We merge together both so that we can create a secure, trustworthy and resilient environment system for the AI that we create. So I think that is the main concern, but the concern is correct because one fridge that has the capability of thinking might try to befriend the other fridges. So your fridge might come and try to befriend with my fridge, and they can start communicate to each other. So that's a real threat.
Thank you, Prof. No, by the way, I mean it's not like super difficult, challenging questions because I don't have the answer myself. But I think this is the purpose of us having this discussion because we have our own points of view. We discuss, we debate. Not like no one out of the five of us has the answer, right? But to probably come up with a solution in the mid or long term to such a complicated dilemma, I think it starts with dialogue, right? And I think us having this dialogue today is really a step in the right direction, especially in front of people who probably take the mantle in the next few years, this next generation of TVET talents. So the same question to Prof. Hamdan, just go in this order. Maybe I repeat again if you forget, if you could share one hope or vision for the next 5 years, what you would like to see in Malaysia's advanced TVET journey with regards to AI and cybersecurity.
Okay, thank you. Before that, I'll share a little bit what UMPSA has been doing. We currently are leveraging on our computer makmal. So before this, we have a lot of labs that have a lot of PCs. Okay, now we change into another infrastructure called VDI, Virtual Desktop Infrastructure, I guess. Because of what? This computer makmal actually, throughout the lifespan of the computer, the utilization is less than 10%. Because it's been using during the lab, waktu malam tak pakai, weekend no use, short semester not use as well. So we change into VDI so that we utilize it during the lab session. But at night, we install GPU and we use that as the sort of like supercomputer for AI. The thing is, when we try to make that infrastructure, the cybersecurity issues comes, okay? Because the VDI is meant for internal. But when I put like for IoT, just like Dr. said, IoT usually we want to visible the dashboard using our phone. So it has to be like public IP. And we are not giving the VDI public IP. So things like this is what I vision in the future. Things like this is when we want to utilize something, there will be some cybersecurity issues comes in. So you need to make a new rule. Rule at night, rule at the morning, rule at different IP. So these different rules is what our challenges that we are facing right now. And I hope in the future, when our students have this kind of capability, because for IoT, every student will have one virtual machine. So it's up to him or her to install what the Linux or what in that virtual machine. So I hope the industry will take this opportunity. So during WBL, during the internship, the industry will give like, okay, now I want to test your creativity. So I give you one virtual machine, you install what you want to, and then we'll see what's the improvement to the productivity of the company. That's what I want to see in the future. But of course, cybersecurity takes a challenging role there. You need to make sure it's safe.
Okay, I'm no expert. A lot of it is software, but some of it is hardware as well, which is one more for Prof. for move on. When I was in school, to have a Makmal computer was like the best thing in the world, right? Especially because I went to school not like in a big city, it's somewhat not kampung but semi-urban. So I remember one time a computer lab was built, and then some PCs were put in there, and then all of us were like, wow, Windows 98, wow. Now we can change wallpaper and play with Microsoft Paint, wow. Okay? But those days, there were bigger challenges to obtain infrastructure and hardware. Because those days CPUs, now still expensive, but those days off the charts expensive. It's like phones, right? Nowadays phone you can get for 1,000-2,000 ringgit. Last time like 10,000, those big brick phones, right? So the same with computers. But would you say that for this current crop of students and for the next generation, they would at least have more access to infrastructure and hardware, maybe in the quantity that's better than we used to have, and also at the price point that we used to have?
Thank you. Yes, to answer the short answer to that, yes, I think all of you youngsters will have a good chance to test or to feel a new technology. The rate of changes is very, very fast. So I first touched my computer at age of 7, okay, at 1987. So you know my age already, okay. And at that time the computer is IBM PC, and it's very, very expensive. So my dad has to sacrifice some of his hobbies. He liked photography, but he separate the money to buy the SLR so that I can use that computer. But no, not anymore. Okay, technology changed very fast, very, very fast. And now, if you want to test AI, you want to test GPU, if you have like 100 ringgit, yes, you can, because we got cloud computing. That's for example. That's what we did for our PC lab as well. The supercomputer is so expensive, but using this VDI, I can leverage on that, and the student as well. So once I install the GPU, we will make some we will become like mini AWS. So we will give token to researcher to make use of that GPU. They want to test their own LLM, for example. Now we can do that. The technology changed very fast, and it's become very affordable at this point of, and then it will become more and more affordable in the future.
I think I can relate very, very well that story about your dad, because my parents were teachers, so you can imagine that we were not rich, right? At that point I really minat computer. I was really into computers, and he wanted to try to encourage, but it was very expensive. So being teachers, they could take loan from Koperasi. So that's what my dad did. He took a big loan from Koperasi just to be able to buy me the CPU. And I think that helped shape my life until now, because you kind of remember the sacrifices that they had to make for you to have a better life and for you to have more knowledge, right? I remember it was the first Windows 2000 NT machine, and then I managed to upgrade it to Windows XP. So I can relate, but before I ramble further, so I would like to direct the question to Dr. Ruslita. Same question, your vision and hope for the next 5 years, Malaysia's advanced TVET journey with regards to AI and cyber security.
Okay, so sorry to include my student as well. So the student that is joining me today is actually the first batch of data science in Faculty of Intelligent Computing. So in 5 years, they will graduate. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that we are building the talent. Okay, and so in order for us to build the talent, we have to make sure that they have the suitable tools before they are graduating. So in TVET, we are providing all the labs, all the certification. Okay, so in another way, I would like to add is that we as a MTON University, we have to work together. So maybe we can, in terms of exchange, exchange facility. So we have to strengthen the work between the MTON University in order to prepare our student or our talent for the 5 years or the coming 10 years lah. Okay.
Doctor, just a quick follow-up. Do you think, because this is probably a more general question, but also with regards to AI, cybersecurity and TVET, do you think in 5 years when these students graduate, there will be indeed enough appropriate jobs in the industry for them? Because for the past few years, there's that concern. The industry will say, "Oh, you're not producing graduates with the appropriate skills." But then universities also said to me that we produce 100, for example, but we only have 30 placements in industries. So now and also in 5 years, do you think they'll have enough jobs that are suitable with what they study?
Okay, I think with this the disruption technologies, okay, the job will be totally different. So of course they have to adapt the changes. So in another word, yes, there will be a job, but it might be a different point of, for example, we have a lot more data centers, so the student have to be prepared. What is the technology behind data centers? So the cooling technology, for example. So the student need to have that added knowledge rather than depend on to the syllabus that we have provided. So that's why we have to embed the industrial certification, because industrial certification, for example, Huawei, they updated for every 3 years, they updated a new syllabus. For example, their AI syllabus, they updated with quantum technology. So this, with the help of industry, with the help of this relationship lah, so I think they will be able and have suitable job when the time they have graduate later.
I think what's important is, I think your institutions teach the basic skills needed, the core skills that can be adapted into whatever finer skills that will probably be adjusted in the next few years. Thank you, Doctor. So finally return back to Dr. Zubaidi. Same question.
Okay, but before that, can I add some of
course.
For your questions to Prof. Rosita about is there jobs, right, for the graduates this within 3 to 5 years?
Appropriate job. According
according to their skill set. As we know that we now are connected with IoT. We are now connected with so many social media. We are now connected for teaching and learning, and also many companies adopt work from home. So that when we connected, meaning that there are massive amount of data need to be processed. And this can be helped by a student who gather knowledge from data science or AI to process the data. And also when we talk about connected, there's a pool of victims that can be targeted by malicious actors, because they have everyone connected, they have pool of victims. So we need cyber security professionals. Yes, indeed, for AI and cybersecurity graduates, inshallah, there will be a suitable job, appropriate job, or we call it kerja dalam bidang for next 3 to 5 years. Indeed, Malaysia is shortage about 25,000 cybersecurity professional in coming 2030, if I am not mistaken. So inshallah. Okay, back to the question to me.
Yeah.
Okay. About what is can Mr. I forgot already the question.
What is your vision and hope for the next 5 years? What you would like to see happen in Malaysia's advanced TVET journey related to AI and cybersecurity?
Okay, my hope is just short and simple. We can adapt with technology. I'm speaking about cybersecurity because cybersecurity is my field. Whatever protection we apply to our technology is still not enough, because there is there is no 100% secure system. But the best thing is awareness, because the weakest link in cybersecurity is human. Without security awareness, whatever technology, whatever secure system you apply is not helpful to the organization. Okay? So my hope for our graduates today is not only they are employable graduates, but they are also digitally hygiene, digitally resilient towards cybersecurity threats. That's all.
One quick follow-up, Doctor. Because we have a bit of time before we open to question and answer. By the way, guys, I forgot to mention in the beginning, we also have a question and answer session for this session, because we would like to hear from you as well. The allotted time for the Q&A session is 10 minutes, but I think I want to give a bit more. I think I want to give at least 15 minutes, because I think these folks probably have wonderful or very interesting questions, being somewhat of an expert in their fields as well. So one final question, Doctor, before we open to the Q&A. When you talk about cybersecurity, very simply speaking, we use tools and software, right, to enforce cybersecurity. From as simple as malware detectors, antivirus software, what have you. How much of those tools and software do we have locally made, if at all? How much of those tools or software that we use pertaining to cybersecurity are locally made, if at all, or locally developed? Because this intertwines well with AI. Because AI, one of the concerns is that we are using LLMs, but ChatGPT is made by the US, DeepSeek is made by China, and then of course the concerns like privacy, security concerns. Some countries more than the rest. For example, China, because they literally have it in the constitution that the government can force any company to give everything to the government. And we are giving this to foreign actors. So if you apply that to cybersecurity tools, do we face similar challenges, and do we have enough local alternatives?
Okay, actually when we talk about cybersecurity tools, which locally developed, we can say is still in low percentage. We still depends on product from outside, US, Euro country, but Alhamdulillah, since for the MTON, I think many of Malaysia Technical University, UTHM, UTEM, UMPSA and UNIMED, if they don't have actually these three universities have cybersecurity program. I'm not sure about UNIMED, but also have UNIMED also have cybersecurity program, but you have courses or subject about cybersecurity, right? Okay, but it's okay. So as UTHM and the information I gathered from our MTON networks, the final year students are now no longer developing a website that have just secure login, but they also develop products, cybersecurity product such as threat detection using AI, which is very good. At par as market product, but the problem is, it's not a problem, it's our talent or our capability to market that product. Okay, who are gonna market that product? The product developed in university. Is it the students or the lecturers that go for the pitching for funding? But I believe in 3 to 5 years we will have a vast amount of cybersecurity product that being developed locally, inshallah.
I think one of the solutions is right in front of us. This is the next generation of people who will probably develop our own line of local tools. Definitely not impossible, because we are seeing even with LLMs, even in such a short period of time. We have a locally developed LLM now called Ilmu.
Yeah, ilmu.
Yeah. So we definitely have the capacity, capability, and the skills.
We have capability, we have hardware, and yeah, we are developing the talent for that.
We have bright, young future generations in front of us. So, okay, thank you very much, professors, doctor. We would now like, we have about 15 minutes left, just on time. We would like to take some questions from the floor, please, because we will have microphones, right, roving, or do you have a fixed microphone, and the microphone will come to you? Okay, microphone will come to you. Raise your hands, introduce your name, where you're from, to whom you're directing the question, or maybe just general, and of course the question. So we have about 15 minutes just for the Q&A. Can we have the first question, please? They totally agree, no questions. Or maybe they're just sleepy after the nasi. Right.
So any question on the floor?
Okay. So let me just float one question before we find someone. There's one question here I've prepared just in case of this situation, because we are very experienced already, you know. So the question is a very general question. How can TVET institutions ensure that students from non-technical backgrounds also benefit from AI and cybersecurity education, especially as these fields have now become essential across all industries, including mine, news and journalism? How do we ensure that? Prof, want to take first? Yeah.
Okay, in GDMAP, the TVET Center is serving all the faculties. So I think in GDMAP there is not a problem lah, because we are not limited to certain, for example, we are not limited to Faculty of Intelligent Computing student. It's all open for all students within different faculties. So that I want to highlight lah. So means that, for example, we have recently we have received Google Malaysia certification. We have 500 lessons provided by the KPT. So I think all university also have the same thing. Okay, so that one is not limited to means data science program, not limited to computer student. So it's all open, and then it have a different technical track, including AI and cybersecurity. So I think we have received a suitable support lah, in order for us to not limiting computer student, but to all students.
Has the reception been good amongst non-technical students?
Yes, because we have received a lot of application from, because we have Faculty of Business and Communication in UNIMAP. So we have a lot of requests from that student, because in that track also we have digital marketing, UX design under the Google Malaysia certification.
Thank you, Prof. Want to add from the UNIMAP, UTM, UTHM standpoint?
Okay, before that, I like the first question. Regarding the non-technical background student, I would like to say that I see AI should be applied in 3 levels. Okay, the first one, like you said, the non-technical, like the journalism and everything, you should be able to use the AI, just like when calculators comes in. So before calculators, we have the Sampua, we use buku sifir to do the kuasa dua, log, and then calculators come in, we don't have to do that. We can use calculators. For this kind of AI, who doesn't learn about the AI, you unfortunately rugi. So you have to, and this will become naturally. Those who don't use, you waste your time. Okay, but the second level is for technical, for example, the architects. Okay, you can use some tools, AI tools for automation, for example, and you can use, you can subscribe for AI So this is another level that we teach at the university for non-computer science students. But for computer science students, IT, you have to learn the third level. You have to learn to manage the AI. If I give you like hardware, you install. You know the containers, you know Dockers, you know DevOps in terms of your software development tools. You know how to manage teams. So I think that's the 3 level. So I'm not really if the lowest level, okay, everyone should use. Everyone should use. And I think most of you here has already used that. But you need to learn more. Take master prompter, for example, how to prompt, write that one. So that's what we do, and I think that's what we happen in the future.
Okay. If you don't have any questions from the floor, I would like to ask one final question to Lumani. Yes, okay.
Okay, can I ask one question?
Sure, of course.
Okay, my question is very simple. Because when we talk about AI and cybersecurity, it closely related to the personal data protection as well as the privacy concern, alright? And as educator, how we can embed the idea of the personal responsibility and social accountability to the student in the TVET education sector?
Quite deep and nuanced question. The ethical concerns while developing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ran. The question is how we ensure
how
that
we can embed the personal responsibility and social accountability.
Okay. First of all, for PDPA or Personal Data Privacy Act, everyone, students, must know what is personal identification, or data that being categorized in personal identification and data privacy. Once they know what should be disclosed, what should be kept secret, it's much more easier for them, for us, to ensure that they are not simply giving their so-called personal information to the public. Maybe you can say that, or I just publish, or I just celebrate my birthday on certain day. But the malicious actor, or we call it hackers. Actually, hackers, there are a lot of terms related to cybersecurity. Hackers is one thing, malicious actor is one thing. But let's say that you post you celebrate your birthday. From that point, POV, we can say POV, POV of, we can use semua tahu kan POV kan. That information actually can be used to the hackers to guess. Maybe your password is your date of birth, and then combined with your, maybe your address. So beware or be careful before send your information to public. And we know that this generation are very, I can say addicted, but very familiar with the TikTok, where you show all kind of dance. Tak boleh, apa tak boleh belah? Apa tak boleh balik? Oh, saya ingat tak boleh belah.
Tak boleh belah, it's already 3 years ago, bro.
Okay, no problem. Okay.
Yesterday's news.
Okay. So, you know that if you post things like that, with the advance of AI, they can get your all videos, pictures. They train their AI to produce deepfake image of you, which will look exactly like you, but in that way, okay? So be careful before you post something, and about to ensure about the integrity, don't simply share something news or links that you unsure where it came from. Okay. Yeah, that's all. Maybe another panel wants to add some points.
Thanks, Doctor. I just want to check, because I was told that there was someone who raised, or there were a couple of people raised their hands. Okay, gentlemen in front. Sorry about that. We didn't notice your hand. We have a question from the audience. Perhaps the last one we have time for.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. Maybe my hand is too short. Okay, very good afternoon to Mr. Lukman and doctors. So my name is Lukman also, actually. My name is Ahmad Lukman. I am from Damansara. And currently, I'm actually working as a cyber threat intelligence analyst. So I'm from the industry. I'm not sure how many of us here from the industry, but coming from the industry itself, I do agree with one of the points where you mentioned that we have a lot of talents, we have a lot of graduated students. But as for my own experience, in working with these new fresh grad students, we have a lot of them, but not a lot of capable ones. So this actually one of the challenges that we are having from the industry. So for example, not all of them, but most of them not really well versed even with the fundamental terms of networking, for example. So when they come to the industry and working as a cybersecurity practitioner, some of the fundamental things they are not really, sometimes they forgot. So I would like to ask, what could be the problem here, and how we as the industry can help these individuals to proceed to be a better individual in the industry.
Thank you. Interesting. Round of applause for Lukman, please. Because I think that was an interesting question. We talked about industry, academia. We got direct question from industry. So whoever wants to take first. Prof, want to take first? We can go around the table also. No one gets to escape.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, first of all, may I know, are you coming based on invitation from us? From FAIX?
Yeah, actually it's by invitation from FAIX.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, alright, because we do invite some of our industrial collaborators, and actually by having TBAT, everything comes back to TBAT actually, because by using the TBAT framework, actually we have to collaborate with industries on several stages. First of all, I think during the curriculum development. So when we propose a TBAT program, academic program, one of the requirements is to have a strong and established industrial collaborators. And by doing so, we take input directly from the industry so that we can understand what are the real threats, what are the real requirements, how the things it works, what works and what doesn't work in the industry and so on. And this helps us a lot to avoid many of the mistakes that we done before, previously did. And second thing is that not only during the curriculum development, we also work closely in order to establish what we call, Prof. Rosita mentioned before, about the WBL, work-based learning. Work-based learning is a one step higher compared to the internship, because for WBL, one of them is to have the student to stay in the industry for 2 semesters. And this helps the student understand about the nature of the works and so on, so that they, upon graduations, they already have 1 year. They already spend 1 year in the industry, and not only they spend 1 year in the industry, but also there are some courses, some subjects that they need to take based under the supervision of the industrial supervisor. So that helps when we would like to establish the real skill. What we want to have from the student is to grasp as much as possible from this industry before they graduate. Okay, I think that may answer it.
Got it. Anyone else wants to add, if any?
Okay, again, terima kasih. Yes, I agree with that answer. We have the WBL, so I encourage you to try WBL. Have you tried take student from WBL? WBL is 1 year at industry. So, okay, so try that because few companies cannot take WBL because of some regulations. But if you can try WBL, they really helps, and we actually invest a lot. All the endos invest a lot for WBL students. But for students, I want you to pay attention to Mr. Lokman opinion, because that's important. You take like what 120 credits for the span of 4 years. Okay, one credit according to MQA is like 40 hours of learning. So if you times 40 times 120, and then you divide by the hours of you living at university for 4 years, minus the sleep. Let's say you sleep 8 hours at night. You don't sleep 8 hours. I know you don't sleep 8 hours. But if you divide that, you will spend less than 30% learning. What happened for that 70%? That's for your riadah, your salat and everything. But there's still a lot of time to learn something else outside the curriculum. Please do that. You, I don't know how to say this, but I think all us here have spent a lot of time go to library, search for something new. When we have access to Wikipedia, we try to learn something new. You actually can learn anything new just by you waiting at kedai RM2, just waiting for the line. You can learn something new there. So learn a lot of something new. Fundamental like the network, FTP, HTTP, that's all has to be on your mind. But all other things, Kubernetes, Dockers, learn a lot. You have computers, then you try learn something new, because it takes us quite a long time to adapt something new, like UMPSA, Master of Cybersecurity. That's we try so fast to make that program, but it's still quite late. Now it's come AI. So we make a new program for AI that will run in maybe next year or another year. But then, now it's become agentic AI now. Okay? If you wait for us to deliver the curriculum, it will be too late for you. So use that another 70% of your time at university. Try to learn something new, and it will help you during the interview.
Can I menyebut and sound like an old man? Because I just want to say it should be quite easy nowadays, right? Because not even going to 30 years ago, but during even my time, we had Google and Wikipedia. That was the best that we had. So it was easy. The previous generation told us, now you have it easy. But still, you kind of had to compile information, etc. And those days, YouTube was still in its infancy. So nowadays, you've got high bandwidth, everything. You've got streaming, you've got YouTube, you've got ChatGPT who's summarizing everything in one place. It should be quite easy to teach yourself additional skills in your free time. I mean, I learned video editing and audio engineering just through YouTube, because so many tutorials, etc. Right? So I think you guys need to seize this opportunity. Doctor.
Saya nak tambah sikit lah. Saya setuju dengan Cik Lokman. Kita kata dilema lah. Dilema menerima pelajar yang atau kandidat yang kerja, takkan industri nak kena ajar lagi. Dan saya setuju dengan Lokman juga, iaitu anak-anak sekalian, zaman kami belajar, kami menggunakan Google saja. Dan juga kelengkapan ataupun peralatan yang sangat minimum. Sedangkan pada zaman kamu ni, handphone kamu tu dah sangat bagus untuk jadi alat pembelajaran ni. jangan nak push rank je kan. Nanti kena arti. Okey, jangan push rank je. Awak ada banyak, anak-anak ada banyak sumber rujukan untuk belajar, Coursera, Udemy. Kalau yang dalam cyber security, Hack in the Box, you ada Pico CTF, jadi gunakan sebaik-baiknya lah. Dia kalau dia push rank, dia banyak habis masa nak select hero ke, Hayabusa ke kan, Fedri ke kan.
Main juga lah. Jenna Farm is like 6-7
selalu kena anti
6-7.
Jadi sebab akan datang bidang ini sangat kompetitif, cyber security dan AI, dan semestinya industri akan memilih talent yang terbaik lah. Dan talent yang terbaik itu dia bukan hanya belajar dalam kuliah sahaja apa yang diajar oleh pensyarah, tetapi mencari sumber rujukan lain yang dapat dengan sangat mudah, sama ada di YouTube, di social media sendiri pun, di TikTok tu pun, selain awak dengar kata-kata hari ini tu, ada juga panduan-panduan tentang cyber security dan AI yang boleh anda follow. Jadi usaha lebih sedikit lah daripada orang lain to be the best candidate and best talent.
Baik. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. A round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very much, Associate Professor Technologist Dr. Muhammad Hafiz Fazli Fawadi of UTM, Technologist Dr. Zubaidi Abdullah from UTHM, Associate Professor Dr. Ruzli Tangadiran from UNIMAP, and last but not least, Professor Dr. Hamdan Daniel from UMPSA. Thank you so much for all your participation, your engagement. We hope it was beneficial. It was quite fun because we overrun a bit, which is always a sign that always a sign of a good time for us at least. So thank you very much once again. Now I pass it back to the MCs.
Thank you to all our panelists and moderator for a thought-provoking discussion. To convey our sincere appreciation, we would now like to invite Associate Professor Technologist Dr. Muhammad Hafiz Fazli, the Dean of FAIX, to present a token of appreciation to our esteemed panelists. We will begin with Technologist Dr. Zubair bin Abdullah from UTHM. Next, Professor Madya Dr. Ruzalita Nadiran from UNIMAP. Next is Professor Dr. Hamdan bin Daniel from UMPSA. And lastly, for our moderator, Mr. Luqman Haris. Thank you to the Dean of FAIX and to all our panelists for sharing your valuable knowledge and insight during this forum. And thank you once again to our moderator, Mr. Luqman Haris, for expertly guiding the discussion.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached the end of today's program. And on behalf of the organizing committee, the Faculty of Artificial Intelligence and Cybersecurity FAIX UTM, we would like to extend our heartfelt appreciation to all distinguished guests, honorable keynote speakers, esteemed strategic partners, members of academia, researchers and scientists, and the participants for being part of today's successful event.
Once again, thank you for your presence and participation throughout the event. Pohon berangan tempat bertemu, girangnya rasa si anak dara. Baliklah Tuan membawa ilmu, binalah bangsa, bangunkan negara.
And with that, the ceremony officially comes to an end, and we wish everyone a pleasant afternoon ahead. and safe travels back to your respective universities. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye-bye.